This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Car shopping shouldn't feel like preparing for a marathon of paperwork. That's why Carvana makes buying and financing your car easy. From start to finish, search thousands of vehicles with great prices. All online, all on your time. And when you're ready, your new car shows up right at your door. It doesn't get better than that. Buy your car the easy way. On Carvana. Delivery fees may apply.
I was thinking of very old times when the Romans first came here, 1900 years ago, the other day. Imagine the feelings of the commander of a fine, trireme in the Mediterranean, ordered suddenly to the north. Or think of a decent young citizen in a toga, perhaps too much dice, coming out here in the train of some prefect, land in a swamp, march through the woods, and in some inland post, feel the savagery, the utter savagery, had closed around him. All that mysterious life of the wilderness that stirs in the forest, in the jungles, in the hearts of wild men. Imagine the growing regrets, the longing to escape, the powerless disgust, the surrender, the hate. So, Tom Hollands, that's how I feel when I come to London. That quotation from Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, in which Marlowe, the narrator, imagines the feelings of a Roman, a young Roman, posted to Britannia. What a god-awful posting that is. And he ends up in London, of all places.
Well, I think Dominic, it's actually imagining a Roman coming up the Thames estuary before London has even been founded.
Yeah.
And today we're going on a tour of Roman London, of Londinium. But I think that part of the fascination of Roman London for anyone who has, who's apocalyptically minded, is the sense that there was a time when this huge city didn't exist. And it's entirely a creation of the Romans. And then, of course, after the Romans leave, it collapses and crumbles again. And Conrad is writing that at a time when, London is the great imperial capital of the world's largest empire, larger than Rome. It is the new Rome. And it's prefiguring the story of Marlowe going up the Congo.
Yeah.
The Heart of Darkness. And I think that we're standing now on London Bridge, the south side of London Bridge.
So set the scene for us, Tom. Yeah. Tell us what we can see. We've got St. Paul's over on the horizon, the great dome, the symbol of the Blitz and all that stuff.
Yeah, so we're on London Bridge. We've got the Thames flowing, the vastness of the Thames. We've got the embankment has been built up. We've got the great kind of monuments to Mammon, the great towers of the city, and then we've got the Tower of London on the right side and Tower Bridge. But thinking about Roman London takes us back to a time when none of this existed, when there were no wharves, there were no build-up. The Thames was a kind of great bog. And the reason that we're standing here now and the reason that London exists is because it's crucially, this is the lowest bridging point on the Thames.
Where we are now?
Yeah. So when the Romans land here, AD 43, they need to cross the Thames, and probably this was a fording point where we're standing now.
It's a hell of a long ford, Tom.
It is a long way across. It is a long ford, but they had Batavians who came from
Batavia,
from the Netherlands, from the Low Countries, who were very adept.
The producer's very amused by that,
giggling away. But they shouldn't be, because the Batavians were serious guys who they could cross rivers in full armour with their horses.
That is impressive. I hope
so they were able to do that and get across. But very, very quickly, the Romans built a bridge here, and on the far side, roads were then built going to northwards, westwards.
So you were telling
eastwards.
Me there's nobody. It hasn't occurred to the Celts to. I mean, if it's a fording point, there must be some. Is there a settlement?
As far as we know, there was an oppidum, so a kind of a hill fort, a kind of proto town at Woolwich.
Right.
But no other settlement, really. I mean, maybe the odd farm, but essentially that description that Conrad gives you of the trireme coming up the Thames estuary and looking out and seeing nothing but savagery and barbarism. I mean, it wasn't, but, we're talking mud flats, we're talking forests.
Yeah.
There's nothing here. And this is what makes London unusual in the Roman context, is that, by and large, when the Romans move into a place, they set their provincial capital up in a place that is already a major centre.
Right.
So
a trading
absolutely.
market town.
So the major settlement in Britain when the Romans invade is Camulodunum, Colchester. So that Colchester duly becomes the first capital. But London is kind of so the famous description of London is that it's the great wen, a kind of great pustule or boil or spot that grows on the country.
Yep.
And that works perfectly as well in the Roman period because there's no plan to found a city here. It just grows organically.
Why?
Because this is the lowest bridging point, as we said, and the bridge is built here, but it's also a port, so you can sail up here. So that is what makes London, and has always made London, the obvious capital once you have a unitary state in southern Britain, because this is kind of made by geography to be the capital. And that essentially, so it kind of grows organically in a way that by and large in Roman Britain, most cities don't. Most cities here are artificial.
We're about halfway over the bridge now, heading towards the city. Tell us a bit more about the people who lived here when the Romans arrived. So they're Celtic.
Yeah.
And the sort of stereotype is basically they're painted blue, daubing each other in mud.
Drinking milk.
Yeah.
Absolutely vile customs.
Just behaving disgracefully.
Yes, shocking. No, they're a bit more civilized than that. They are, they're on the periphery of a great empire. And so, like most people's on the periphery of a great empire, they're influenced by it. So they're starting to invest in wine. They're starting to copy things like coinage. There may well actually be tribal entities here who have already essentially submitted to the Romans even before the formal invasion.
Why do the Romans bother? I know that's a huge question, and we don't want to have it dominate the whole episode. But in a couple of lines, this is not a very, as the Conrad description suggests, it's not a terribly attractive part of Europe. They're so rich already and powerful. Why do they even bother?
Well, Britain is actually very. I mean, it's agriculturally rich. It's full of minerals.
Tin.
It is also. It's there, and empires expand.
Okay.
It's and Claudius, the emperor who launches the invasion, he famously, people who've watched like Claudius will know he stutters, he limps, his head rolls. He wants to cut a dash.
Yeah, he needs it for political reasons.
Needs it for political reasons. And so actually, the very first representation of Britannia, so the figure who appears on our coins, it appears on a frieze in a temple in what's now Turkey. And it shows Claudius as a kind of iron-bodied rapist. He's raping her. So Britannia is a woman. She's had her clothes torn off her. Claudius is holding her. And that's essentially why Claudius launches it. He needs a coup.
He wants people to do mosaics and friezes like that about him, basically.
He does. Well, he wants to cut a dash. He wants to pose as an imperator, a general, an emperor. I mean, an emperor has that kind of that root in the military sense of it.
So, Tom, we're now on the just reaching the other side of the Thames, the north side. So, at what point would you say do the Romans identify this as a future settlement? So, within a few years of landing, or is it?
Yeah, as I said, I think it grows up organically. So it becomes a military base. They build a fort here. It controls, the access to the continent. Yeah, so there's a document that's been found that dates from incredibly early on. So probably the bridge is built, a wooden bridge is here by 47.
Okay.
So that's,
within like 3 or 4 years of
so 3 or 4
landing?
years after the invasion. And then 10 years after that, and we can date it very precisely, to the 8th of January, AD 57, you have an IOU, so somebody promising to pay money back. And what you realise is, so we're now crossing into the city, and we're surrounded by these great gleaming towers, monuments to money making. London, right from the beginning, has been about making money.
Yeah.
So traders are coming in here.
The ethos of the city has never changed.
The ethos of the city has never changed. The Romans can appreciate a strategically crucial transport and military node when they see it. And that's why by the end of, certainly by the end of the first century, it's pretty clear that it's replaced Colchester as the capital of the province, because it is the obvious capital. But of course, before that, Dominic, there is the first of one of the many catastrophes that have overwhelmed the city of London. which hits it in either AD 60 or 61, which is, of course, Boudicca's revolt. We will head now up towards Bank Tube Station, serving the Bank of England.
Yep.
And there is a stretch of road there called Poultry. So in the Middle Ages, that's where chickens were sold. And number 1 Poultry was redeveloped in the 80s and 90s. And during the process of redevelopment, something extraordinary was found. So let's wait till we get there, and then we can discuss it.
That is very exciting. So, Tom, to unwitting eyes, it would seem that we just stopped outside a branch of NatWest. Explain to me the thrilling story behind this spot.
Okay, so we're now looking at number 1 Poultry, which was designed by James Stirling. The whole process by which it came to be built here was very controversial because it was on the site of Mappin and Webb, which is a very handsome Victorian building. But from the point of view of Roman archaeology, it was great because they dug down, and in the foundations, they found 48 skulls, all of young men, so clearly been decapitated and dumped there, and charred buildings. And these buildings have dated to around AD 60. So this is the evidence for what you get in Tacitus, the report of Boudicca's revolt, that she incinerates London.
So this
and London has kind of been burnt 3 times. This was the first. Then, of course, you have the Great Fire, 1666, and then you have the Blitz. And the reason that this was preserved is because of, you'll see we're standing on a street called Walbrook. Yes. And the Walbrook is a river that is running directly beneath us.
So it's a lost river, right?
It's a lost river. So the place we're by the Bank of England, and the Bank of England stands over the Walbrook. It's actually in a river valley. So we're between Ludgate Hill and Cornhill. And
you'd never know it, would it?
You'd never know it. You'd never know it. But this river flows. Flows about 2 miles, rises about 2.5 miles north of the Thames, flows due south, and the Roman city basically gathered around it because they could use the river as an open sewer, and because of that, loads of organic material was preserved.
When you say organic material,
sandals. Letters.
Okay, that's better than I was expecting.
Well, yes, probably a bit more as well. And loads of this material has actually been preserved about 2 minutes walk from here. So if we head down southwards, so we'll head to what is probably one of the most, I think it is, the most romantic and exciting finds ever made in Roman London, which was a temple to Mithras, friend of the show, who featured in the World Cup of Gods.
But before that, Tom, do not throw away this story about Boudicca and the skulls. So the story goes that she and her... Now, remind me, I'm trying to remember my 9-year-old history lessons. She and her daughters have been molested by Romans, and in revenge...
So she's the queen of a tribe called the Iceni, who inhabit East Anglia, Norfolk, that kind of area. And her husband, Prasutagas, is an ally of the Roman people. When he dies... The Romans move in and they rape Boudicca, they rape her daughters, and this is an unwise thing to do because Boudicca raises the Icenians, and they sweep down and they burn Colchester, they burn London, they burn Verulamium, St Albans, and it looks as though the entire future of the province is hanging in the balance. And they meet with Suetonius Paulinus, who is... he's been attacking the Druids up in Anglesey, and he comes herring back when the news reaches him and meets with Boudicca's army and wipes them out.
And the skulls, the young men.
Yeah.
These are what? Roman soldiers who've been caught basically in London?
No, they presumably they are civilians. The Britons are headhunters. They're kind of trophies.
Right.
That presumably, we don't know.
It's very hard to dance.
It's very hard to dance. Yeah, well, the thing about Roman London, our understanding of it is based on a kind of meshing together of documentary sources, which are often very fragmentary. So we do have Tacitus say on Boudicca, but then there are whole periods where the city is simply not mentioned at all by Roman historians. So you have to fill in the gaps with archaeology.
Because it's inconsequential to them, basically, because it's in Britain and it's a long way away, and who cares?
Yeah, basically.
And the people who lived here, I mean, okay, there's very little evidence one way or the other, but your best guess, Tom, the people who lived here, they're kind of Romano-British. Are they Celtic extract? Are they of Celtic origin?
Well, I think it's likelier to be. Certainly there would be people who are British living here, but it would also be lots of people from abroad. It would be settlers and traders and so on.
Yeah. So lots of.
And so they would be
proto-French coming over.
Well, it's interesting. So probably the best preserved stretch of wall, and we'll come to the walls later on, is by Tower Hill. There, embedded in part of the fabric of the medieval wall when it got built, was a tombstone of a Gaul who'd come over here in the wake of Boudicca's rebellion to kind of basically set up a tax apparatus that would not provoke rebellion. So to try and kind of calm things down. So he's the colonial administrator who comes in, but he's a Gaul.
Right. That's interesting.
So you can see how, of course, I mean, Roman London is connected to Gaul closer than it is to Rome. So there are probably people from Italy here, but there are more likely to be traders from Gaul.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have now arrived outside the London Mithraeum. And this was found in the 50s. So, the Blitz was tremendously good for Roman archaeology. And it was found, it was again kind of by the site of the wall, by the banks of the Walbrook. And it was very, very inconvenient for the developers. They didn't want a temple to Mithras. Yeah. And the reason that it's preserved is because, as listeners to the World Cup of Gods will remember, that basically Mithras worshippers are kind of like Masons, male only. It's all about kind of signing up and making friends and contacts and that kind of thing.
It's like Brooks is for you, Tom.
Well, perhaps a little bit. But the temples are situated underground. This temple had survived for that reason. It was kind of very deep in the archaeological layer, but inconvenient for the developers. So they removed it and they situated it next to a very busy road and surrounded it by 1950s style crazy paving. So it could not have looked less romantic. But then when Bloomberg came here and developed this space, and part of the planning condition was that they had to provide a new space for the Mithras temple, which they've done, I have to say, absolutely superbly. So you can go in here, anyone in London can visit it. It's a really, really excellent experience. You go deep down. They've kind of set up sound and light shows so that you have a sense of what the temple actually looked like.
Sounds great, Tom.
It is very good.
Let's go in.
But we're not going to do that. What we are going to go in is go and have a look at some of the organic material from the Walbrook, which is preserved inside.
So, Tom, we've come inside, and just for people who don't know the area, it's right next to Bank Tube Station. We're in the heart of the city, surrounded by massive towering office blocks. And here is this fantastic-looking little museum. And Tom, for people who don't know, a Mithraeum and Mithras. So this is this very obscure god, isn't it? The heyday of the empire, basically a sort of club for the officer class. Is that fair? That men, sort of upwardly mobile, aspirational Roman men, sort of captains and so on, they gather, underground? And we don't know what they do. Do they... Something to do with bulls.
Yeah. Well, Mithras is meant to have killed the bull at the beginning of time, and the cult of Mithras kind of replicates this.
Yeah.
So this temple built around AD 240, and it's as you say, a cult. I mean, we said very like the Masons.
Yes.
It's the kind of place where you go and you meet useful people, and it has kind of different grades. So you go in at the bottom, and the ambition is to go higher and higher and higher.
Excellent.
At the start of the show, I mentioned the very earliest document ever found written in Britain, which is this IOU from the very early years of London. And this is it. So you can see it there. Very exciting. But next to it, there is another one. And this is, in a way, equally exciting. So probably from 65 to 70. So, less than a decade after the incineration of the city by
almost
Boudicca.
2,000 years old.
And the reason that this is exciting is this is the first ever mention on a document from London of the name of London. So Londinium.
So what am I looking at, Tom? Because, it's very, very faded.
Yeah,
it's a wooden tablet, and they've scratched on it with a stylus?
Yeah, and so there'd be wax on it, and the imprint of the stylus would leave marks on the wood.
Yeah.
And then it gets chucked out, gets thrown into the mud, sinks into the mud of the Walbrook, and it's then preserved. And so whenever there's excavations here, we're in the heart of the city, so they're always digging deep foundations. this stuff gets turned up, and you can see there's all kinds of, so there's coins, there's amphorae, there are keys, there's nick combs, there's all kinds, mosaics, so all kinds of stuff.
It's a fantastic hoard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's wonderful. But I think the stuff that is really moving and powerful is the organic material, which otherwise doesn't survive. So as well as this writing stuff, you've got an oar, you've got a piece of a door, and you've got a sandal.
Yeah, the sandals are
kind
great,
of wonderful.
aren't they? The sandals are beautifully preserved.
Really, really wonderful. So anyone in London who hasn't been here, it's an amazing thing. It's free. We're not going to go down into the bowels of the building to look at the Mithras temple.
Well, we haven't been initiated, so we're not.
No, we haven't. Although we are men, so we are allowed to do it.
Right.
But part of the problem is that we don't have huge amounts of written material explaining what's happening in the history of London. So we have to kind of work out from the archaeology. And most of the buildings of Roman London in its heyday have vanished. So all you really have are fragments. And I think part of the fascination of Roman London is the way in which you can have a sense of it as it actually was, but it's also a place of myth and fantasy. So rather like, Conrad imagining the Roman centurion coming up the Thames estuary, over the entire sweep of its history, so all the way through the Middle Ages, through the Tudor period and so on, these fragments of Roman London that have been found by later periods have generated myths, fantasies. So I think we'll go for a break now. And when we come back, we'll go and have a look at a few of the fragments that are preserved. And they appear in quite odd contexts and interesting contexts.
I look forward to it.
This episode is brought to you by Rocket Money.
Tom, we often talk about how to organise our finances. I'm very conscious that I'm paying for a lot of mad subscriptions. And there's one thing that we've talked about often on this show. It's the thing that we probably hate more than any other, and it's a hidden fee. I would love to get my finances under control. There are all these things piling up on our bank statements, and I think I need to fix this problem. I need to sort this out and to stop this.
I mean, my finances are so chaotic that I need this app.
So I'll tell you what it is. It's called Rocket Money. It's a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending and it helps to lower your bills so that you can grow your savings.
With Rocket Money, you can track all of your subscriptions and you can easily cancel within the app with just a few taps, saving you time, avoiding charges. And you can also set budgets and goals and get personalized insights and regular reports to track how you're doing. They will even send you real-time alerts for large transactions, upcoming bills, refunds, and even low balances. So let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/ishistory.
That's rocketmoney.com/ishistory. rocketmoney.com/ishistory. Welcome back to The Rest is History. We are in the heart of Roman London. We're by some roadworks. There are lorries. It's incredibly glamorous. And Tom Holland, who's been talking about doing this podcast for basically as long as I've known him.
I'm so excited.
Has stopped by one of his favourite artefacts, which is basically just a big stone. So, Tom, tell us about this stone.
Anyone with any interest in Roman London knows the thrill to be had from looking at lumps of stone. It's what it's all about. So we're opposite Cannon Street railway station, and we're looking at what is called the London Stone.
Right,
which is one of the weirdest, most kind of folkloric things to be seen in the whole of the capital. And it's first mentioned, I think, in the 12th century. And it was this great, this huge kind of stone that stood in the middle of Cannon Street. And it was believed that whoever you could ride up, you could touch it with your sword, and then you'd rule London.
Well, I have a good fact about this, Tom.
Yeah?
Did you know that in 1450,
go on.
The rebel leader Jack Cade, leading a rebellion against non-friend of the show, Henry VI, he struck it with his sword and claimed to be Lord of London.
I did know that, because it says that on the placard, which is right next to it.
Tom, don't spoil the illusion.
Exactly so. And did you... Oh, an ambulance is going past.
It's the history police, I think.
Dominic, did you also know that in 1742 the London Stone was moved to the north side of the street and eventually set in an alcove in the wall of St Swithin's Church on this side?
Yeah, you're very blatantly reading the placard.
Yeah,
now.
Yeah. Okay,
so this is this kind of it's a sort of folkloric. How weird that this one stone, which frankly I've said a big stone, but it's I mean, it's not that big.
So
it's
over
the size of a very large parcel, basically.
So originally it was much larger.
Okay.
And people have been chipping bits off it over
Claiming
the course
to be
of the
Lords of
Middle Ages.
London and
all that kind of malarkey. And basically nobody has any idea what it was or where it came from. So John Stowe, the great Elizabethan antiquary,
yeah.
He says the cause why this stone was set there, the time when, or other memory hereof, is none. And so over the course of the centuries, people have come up with all kinds of theories as to what the London stone was. So very popular theory in the Tudor period was it had been set up by Brutus, the Trojan who came here and killed all the dragons, the founder of Britain. More recently, people have thought that it was a great stone on which the Druids conducted sacrifices. Other people have said that it's the Palladium, so it's the kind of a stone that symbolizes the city, and that if it gets stolen, then the city will fall. So it's
the ravens in the Tower of
it's
London.
a kind of lapidary equivalent of the ravens. And even now, there people are into ley lines and that kind of stuff. Peter Ackroyd and everything, all kind of obsessed with the London
I'm
stone.
surprised I can't see Will Self here or someone like that.
Exactly. But where we're standing now is where the Praetorium, so basically the governor's headquarters would have been, of which there is no trace whatsoever.
No, it's just a Leon.
And the theory is that this marked the gateway into the governor's headquarters.
And so some sort of memory of that was preserved.
Yeah, and so it was preserved. So the Romans leave. There is this kind of great archway here, and it's preserved, and it kind of sinks into the accumulated dirt of the Saxon town. And it's kept as a kind of totem of the city. So if that's the case, then this is the only fragment of the Praetorium that we have. But we don't know. And that is both the kind of the fascination and the frustration.
I think the mayor of London should come and be sworn in, touching this stone. Don't you?
So essentially, unlike, some of the grander Roman cities, so little remains of Roman London.
And we're jumping ahead a bit, I know, in time, but the reason for that is basically that the city falls into total ruin when the Romans leave in the Dark Ages, right? I mean...
Yes. So but it's also that the city plan as it exists now is essentially Anglo-Saxon. So it doesn't correspond to the Roman street plan at all. And the buildings are used, they're cannibalized.
Yeah.
So the stone is used to build the new structures. And the thing that's distinctive about London is that you do have this kind of break, because when the Romans leave, the interior of London seems to have been regarded as cursed. People don't move here. The Anglo-Saxon settlement is further down the Thames at Aldwych. And then you just have these kind of endless cycles of calamity that overwhelms London. So endless fires, endless rebuildings, and so on. And it's just kind of incinerated it. There are trace elements. They're almost all underground. So we went to the Mithraeum. That's kind of wonderful. There's also the amphitheatre, which is at the Guildhall, and again is a kind of underground museum, really worth visiting.
But how much of the amphitheatre is there?
You can see traces of it. There are
traces.
Yeah. Well, no.
That word "traces." The producer's raising his eyebrows.
No.
I followed your recommendations on holidays, and
I've learned
my lesson.
Okay. Well, let's say there is more of the amphitheatre than there is of the Praetorium.
For those people who haven't listened to our previous podcast, I should say, last summer my family went on holiday to Greece, and Tom recommended a temple in Sparta. He said it was absolutely brilliant. And my wife said, we'll just check it on Google Maps first. So we checked it on Google Maps, had a look at the street view. There were about 4 very, very low stones in a field. And the first review said, popular haunt for the homeless and drug addicts. So we decided to give it a miss.
I think that speaks very poorly of your sense of adventure.
It does, yeah. I think we went to the beach or something.
But Dominic, what I would say is that seen through the right lenses... If one is in the right mood, if one has a spirit of adventure, it's possible to accept that the very lack of remnants of a great building is in itself kind of romantic.
Terribly romantic. So as I walk past this branch of Costa, I feel stirred at the thought of the great buildings that were once on this spot.
So actually, what we're going to head to now is one of the most, I think, romantic spots in the whole of Roman London.
Oh,
And it's
don't oversell it, Tom.
a trace element of
Right.
what was
That
one of, if
That
not
word again.
the largest buildings north of the Alps, Roman buildings north of the Alps. And
Okay.
it was the Basilica of Londinium, which stood in the heart of the Forum. And we're heading eastwards from Cannon Street. We've just come to London Bridge again.
So we're by Monument Tube Station.
So we're by Monument
by
Tube
the great
Station.
monument built to
Yep.
the Great Fire of London.
And we're going to head up to a place that we've already visited in the course of this series, which is Leadenhall Market.
Oh, yes.
We went there for our
goose.
for our goose in the Christmas Carol episode. And the Basilica stood on Leadenhall Market. And, which is kind of fitting because the Basilica served as a market. It served as a kind of great assembly point. So people who've been into, a basilica in Italy, kind of, church.
Yeah.
Structure of churches was modelled on Roman basilicas. It was 3 stories high, so absolutely kind of sumptuous showcase building, illustrating for people that even in the kind of barbarous wilds of this chilly island set in the ocean, you could have civilized shopping.
Well, and as luck would have it, there's a Marks and Spencer's just up the road.
But it's almost completely vanished. But there is one chunk of it left, and I think we should go and have a look at it now.
So, Tom, of all the locations you brought me to, none has been more unexpected than this. This is it's a barber shop. There's no way of selling it otherwise.
Nicholson and Griffin Men's Grooming.
It looks excellent, actually.
So we're in Leadenhall Market now. This was always my favourite spot when I did tours of Roman London for the children of the primary school that my daughters went to, and they'd come
you
here.
were that dad.
I was that dad.
Who the other dads all hated.
I was that dad.
Who was always there,
No, I wasn't
pestering
always
the
there, but
teachers to let him do fun things with the kids.
This was the one thing I do every time we go on a tour of Roman London, and they 30 of them, little crocodile, and they'd come here and we'd stand outside the Nicholson and Griffin Men's Grooming. And they would let us go down into the basement. So you'd have a little crocodile of children who would head down solemnly into the basement, see what is down in the basement, and then solemnly come back up. And we can now replicate that.
So that explains, Tom, why just in the barbers I can see a photo of you on the wall with a sign saying, "Do not open the door to this man."
Listeners, he is lying. Let's go in and see what's downstairs.
So we're fighting our way
So lots
past
of
the customers.
chairs everywhere. And in the corner, what do we
Oh,
see?
that
There
is
it
unexpected.
So that's the Basilica. So what we're seeing is we've got people having their hair cut.
Talking about
So
the
there are
holidays.
basins and stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's a kind of glass door, and beyond the door there is a chunk of recognisably Roman masonry. You can tell
Absolutely
you can tell it's
recognisable,
Roman
yeah.
because very kind of thin, narrow bricks.
Yeah.
And that is all that remains of the largest building built by the Romans north of the Alps,
Tom, I take my hat
the
off to
Roman
you.
Basilica.
You've not oversold this at all, and it is more than a trace.
Yeah, it's
quite
great,
a
isn't
good
it?
bit of wall, and it's behind this sort of glass door, so it's clearly quite nicely preserved. You can come and have your hair cut and then go and admire it. It's very
It's
impressive.
absolutely the place to come for your haircut. It's a wonderful salon, and it provides you with a little bit of Roman archaeology as well.
Yeah.
And I don't, what more could a gentleman
Even our
want?
producer, who is the soul of cynicism, is looking wide-eyed with excitement.
I think he's actually just had a haircut, which is a shame because otherwise he could come down here and
Yeah. Have a
Have it
kind of
done.
haircut and penance.
And the thing that's great is that there's a statue of Apollo, a bust of Apollo,
Yes.
on the ledge next to it
And there's a picture on the wall
of the basilica.
of what
yeah.
the thing. I mean, it looks. Was it as big as this, Tom? That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, it was a really, really huge structure.
So I mean, the size. I mean, what's that? The size of a football stadium, roughly.
Yeah, yes,
And so that was
and
the centre
perfectly
of-
square. So the Roman Forum was perfectly square.
Oh, so sorry. That picture is not the basilica; it's the forum.
Yeah, it's the Forum. Well, it's the basilica in the middle, and then you've got the Forum all round it.
Yeah.
And of course, that is a contrast with the modern city because notoriously, the street plan of London, of the city of London, is an absolute mess.
Yes.
It's not a grid.
So this is beautifully laid out. Very.
So this
sort
is
of-
much
yeah.
more a kind of Manhattan style.
Yeah.
and the Anglo-Saxon street plan, which has replaced it, is, that's why it's so difficult to get around the city. You always get lost. But back in the Roman period, much more of a grid pattern. And so you've got here, it tells you about it. This support or pier is the only surviving part of Roman London's basilica, served as the base of an arch in one of the basilica's arcades, housed Roman London's town hall, law courts, central market. Built in AD 70, it was enlarged from AD 90 to 120, became the largest such building north of the Alps. So there you go.
Yeah, I take my hat off to you.
Okay. So I think there's one more of the great sights of Roman London to see, and that is the wall, which was built towards the end of the 2nd century, possibly by a guy called Clodius Albinus. So
he's a usurper, is he?
Yes, Clodius the White, Clodius the Pale. Yes, so he took on Septimius Severus, who himself subsequently came to Britain and actually died in York. And Clodius Albinus came to a grisly end. But it's very possible that he was the guy, because he was governor of Britain, that he built the wall so that London could serve as a kind of fitting capital for a would-be emperor.
But that would be ridiculous. I mean, to have London as your capital would have been ridiculous for a would-be Roman
emperor,
right?
but he's starting off, so he wants to. I mean,
right.
a bit actually, kind of like Constantine as well, who is proclaimed emperor in York. Britain, there is this idea, St. Jerome calls Britain the nursery of tyrants because it has 3 legions, and so therefore it's a very, very useful place for a would-be usurper.
Yeah.
To have, you can go conquer Gaul and then hopefully move on to Italy as Constantine does. And so the walls have to, I don't think that Roman London was under any military threat at the end of the 2nd century, but the walls were built to serve as a symbol.
Yeah.
A grand, prestigious capital.
Sort of prestige.
Had to have walls. And these walls provided essentially, I mean, that they lasted up until quite recently. So the gates, so you have Ludgate, you have Newgate, you have Bishopsgate, Aldgate. All these gates preserve the trace elements of the wall that existed. They're a very, very sizable chunk, as I think I mentioned, by Tower Hill.
Yeah.
And there are other traces as well. And I want to take you, Dominic, to see what I think is the most romantic, the most unexpected chunk of the wall, and again it will require us to go underground.
Excellent. I look forward to it. So Tom, we've been walking along the line of the Roman wall. Very exciting, but a moment of excitement and extraordinary drama that we couldn't possibly have anticipated. We stopped at some traffic lights, and who should be there but, would you want to tell the story?
A wang.
One of our wangs,
James, who I think works at the Guildhall.
Stopped us and said the sentence that I think both of us have been waiting all our lives to hear: "I'm one of your wangs."
So James, if you hear this, it was great to meet you, and I hope you're enjoying this show.
And just to explain, the producer was saying, just before we cancelled on the grounds of just saying demented,
mad stuff.
The Wangs are members of the Restless History Club, which you can, of course, join at restlesshistorypod.com. James
at a very, very reasonable price.
Yeah, James will tell you it is practically, peanuts. Get all kinds of treats and delights.
Yeah, we're giving them away.
Now, back to the Roman wall. We've walked along the course of the wall, and here we are. And it is actually a genuine bit of wall, Tom.
It is genuinely a stretch.
It's more than a trace.
Although we're now on the Barbican. And the Barbican takes its name from a late Latin word, barbicana, which is a watchtower.
Okay.
It was built towards the end of the Roman period. But the stretch of wall that we're looking at now is not actually built by the Romans.
Oh.
So we're looking at crenellations, and this was built by a friend of the show, Edward IV.
Oh, my word, Tom. This is incredibly disappointing.
But the medieval wall, of course, is built on the line of the Roman wall.
Right.
So the Roman wall
the bricks are wrong, aren't they? They're not the same very
bricks,
low kind of bricks that the Romans were.
So, again and again, the Roman city lies underground because there's been this kind of accumulation. The reason I brought you here is we're just east of Cripplegate. So why is it called Cripplegate? Well, according to Stowe, our antiquarian friend from the Elizabethan period, it derives from the cripples begging there.
Oh, right.
That's what he says.
Okay.
I mean, that seems the most improbable explanation.
Really?
I think so. I think he's. I don't.
Why is that?
I think people have no idea why it has that name. But Cripplegate, we're now on the site of the Roman fort. So the Roman fort was built before the walls were built, around 100 AD, 120, and the walls the line of the wall was joined up with the fort. And so that, this garrison protecting the city, protecting the governor, this kind of crucial center of the Roman province. But I want to take you to see one particular stretch of authentic, echt Roman wall.
When you say authentic, I mean, is this authentic?
It is properly Roman.
Okay.
But to do that, unsurprisingly, we have to go underground.
Okay, you're always luring me into basements.
Okay, so Dominic, I've brought you further westwards. We're now
we're
outside the London
entrance into a multi-story car park.
That is well, it's not a multi-story car park, but it is an underground car park. We're by the Museum of London. There's another chunk of the medieval wall.
So this is Edward the Fourth's wall.
Actually, I think this is maybe even early modern. I think it's
Tudor.
Yeah, I think this is Tudor. Anyway, we're now at the London Wall
Car park. Never let it be said that we don't go to the most exotic and glamorous locations.
So we're going into the car park, and we're directly under the line. So the street overhead us is called London Wall.
Yeah,
and all of this stretch got blitzed. The road that is called London Wall, which is basically runs along the line of the London Wall, didn't exist before the Blitz. So this is all part of the city redevelopment that included the building of the Barbican.
Yeah. So the Barbican, for those people who don't know London, is this sort of colossal complex. It's a sort of monument, isn't it, to the 60s kind of spirit, isn't it? It's kind of semi-brutalist.
Yeah, famously you get lost. You just kind of.
I've got lost to the Barbican many times.
Yes, it's a brutalist maze. So, but this car park was built as part of the redevelopment, and once again, familiar story on this episode. The developers found something unexpected, which was a chunk of the original Roman wall.
Tom, does it not occur to you that there must have been so much destroyed in the 19th century?
Yeah.
When they were digging the underground and so on. I mean, imagine the Roman artifacts that must have been lost.
Yeah. I think back then, if you were digging foundations and you discovered some Roman remains, you'd probably keep it. You give a few chunks of it to an antiquarian, and then you just get on with the business.
Yeah, you would.
I mean, it's interestingly, bearing in mind that Britain in the Roman period was a very peripheral province, a very kind of minor province, we probably know more about the archaeology of Britain than we do of any other comparable province.
Really?
Because the laws that have been brought in to conserve are so good and have been so good. And the tradition of antiquarianism in this country is so venerable that we actually know quite a lot about Roman Britain. And that's
so. Tom, I can't help feeling that we're just trudging endlessly through.
Yeah, so we've been trudging through this car park, and there are bays. So we've got to 34 now.
Yeah,
and now we've got to 35. So this is probably the most thrilling,
brilliant
podcast has never been more exciting. And we just need to go a little bit further on. And Dominic, you will see something truly astonishing.
Okay.
But the problem is that we've now only reached 38, and we still.
What are we going to get to? 624.
What can we talk about to keep this going? Well, okay, I'll tell you about Hadrian.
Yeah.
So Hadrian famously comes to Britain and builds his wall. But it seems that during either before or probably just before he arrives, there seems to have been fires in London.
Yep.
And so he may well have sponsored much of the redevelopment. And it's unclear whether these fires were just kind of isolated accidents of the kind that happened all the time, or whether perhaps there'd been some uprising. We just don't know.
It's lost in history. This is probably the point at which I should tell the audience that I'm wearing new shoes that are unbelievably painful.
Whereas I'm wearing walking boots.
So while Tom is whittering on about Hadrian, I'm just in mute agony as we continue to trudge through this underground car park.
I might just say we've now reached 48.
And what do we have to get to?
49, 50, 51, and at Bay 52, we are at journey's end. And Dominic, I think you will agree that it's worth the trudge, it's worth the blisters, it's worth the slog along the very unromantic environs of an underground car park
also
to
fenced
see
off,
what
which is
we
a bit
have. So
disappointing.
tell us what we have here.
It's just a bit of war, isn't it? I mean,
It is a bit of war. It is a bit of
they're
war.
disguising it. So this is Roman. I mean, you can sort of tell by the again, you've got these very long, kind of flat, low bricks, haven't you? That are very recognisable to anyone who's been.
But do you not? You're not sounding impressed. I think this is the most amazing thing to find in a car park. It's a chunk of Roman wall occupying 2 bays.
It's very moving.
And
yeah, you're right.
They've built, they
built the car park around.
They've built the car park around the wall. So
there's a few old scooters around.
Okay, I thought Dominic would be more. I thought you'd be more impressed.
I think
by
the fact
this.
they fenced it off is a bit disappointing.
Yeah, but it kind of adds to the whole ambience.
Well, there's just a bloody big sign in front saying "City of London, no parking."
Yes. Well, obviously you can't park there because there's a chunk of Roman wall there.
Yeah. Somebody's scribbled a bit of graffiti next to the wall that says, oddly, priority.
Okay, well, I think this is one of the great sights of not just the City of London, but
Just to
but
be
the whole of
absolutely
London.
clear, if you're flying to London from, let's say, America on holiday,
Yeah, go straight here.
I don't think this should be.
Yeah,
I don't think it should be in your top 10.
I think it should.
What, above?
Well, the Tower of London and Westminster Abbey, it's too obvious. But you want to see a chunk of Roman wall in a car park, this is where you come.
Yeah, your children will thank you for it if you'd.
Well, Dominic, you're a Doctor Who fan.
Yeah.
So the way that you get out of that, we go through a door over here, and there is a very, very Doctor Who passageway. And what we're going to do now...
Oh, God, he's still going.
Well, I just want you to see the Doctor Who passageway. You might be more excited about that than the chunk of wall.
Okay.
Oh, it's actually quite dark. Maybe we shouldn't go long here.
You sure this is?
No, this is not sensible. No, this is not
underground
sensible.
passage.
This is not sensible. Normally... Oh, we'll just show Dominic how Doctor Who it is.
Oh, yeah, that is quite...
Yeah.
It is quite spooky, isn't
So
it?
I don't know if we can get out. Let's go and find out. Maybe not.
Tony, I wouldn't shut that door.
Oh my God, and here's a Dalek. But I've got one more place, Dominic, to show you, and that is a kind of very moving sight, unexpected sight that takes us back
Is it
to
in a
the end of Roman
Is it in a
London.
car park?
No, it's not.
Let's do it.
So, Dominic, we've been seeing highlights of the great days of Roman London, but for the end of the show, the end of our tour, I've brought you to the foot of the Gherkin, this kind of weird-shaped tower in London.
And not just the foot of the Gherkin, Tom. We
Yeah.
are literally right outside a building that says in gigantic silver letters, Holland House.
Yeah, well, where else? Absolutely my favourite place in London, and properly where I should be living, and I hope one day to move in, take it over. But Dominic, the reason I've brought you here, you are actually now you're standing on a grave.
Oh, my word.
So buried here, so what we've got in front of the Gherkin, there is a black paving slab with a kind of laurel wreath on it.
Yeah, with a wreath on it.
And then next to it, there is some marble engraved, and you've got in Latin, Dis manibus puella incognita Londiniensis hic sepulta est. Translation: to the spirits of the dead, the unknown young girl from Roman London lies buried here.
So what's the story, Tom?
So when they were digging, and again, it's again and again, it's about developers digging stuff up, and to their fury, discovering traces of the Roman city. And what they found here was something really, really amazing, which was the grave of a young girl, and that's odd because the Romans did not bury people within the city limits.
Yeah, they buried them outside
So
the city.
there's a clue there that probably she is Christian, because those kind of earlier taboos prevailed much less with Christians.
Right.
And sure enough, when they dated the bones, they found that they dated her to 350, 400.
So it's plausible she could have been a Christian.
Yeah, and so it's towards the end of Roman Britain, and the city of London by this point was in decline. We are within the limits of the city walls, but perhaps by this point, already the population is falling.
Yeah.
Buildings are kind of being given up to market gardens.
So
and
what
so
we can
on.
imagine is sort of this is an area of what, allotments,
Yes,
overgrown,
exactly,
maybe
exactly.
already becoming ruined.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of so the focus of activity in the very, very kind of last decades of Roman London would have been down towards the port, down towards the docks. And we are further up from that. So you can imagine that this would perhaps be kind of agricultural land by the end of the 4th century. But the story, her story is, I think, I mean, it's very touching, and it's a perfect end for this tour, because again and again, we've also been saying another theme is how people kind of project fantasies onto these strange trace elements that they find. So what happened with this was that her remains were put into storage in the Museum of London for about 3 years. And then 2007, once the Gherkin had been completed, they held a religious ceremony for her. So there was a memorial service.
Of what religion?
Well, there was a memorial service held for her at St. Botolph's Church, which is around the corner at Aldgate. And there was a full-blown procession from the church that came here. So there were vicars and all kinds of people. Yeah. But there was also the Lady Mayoress. And they came here and laid her on this, beneath this slab that we're standing next to now. And the Lady Mayoress scattered rose petals.
Is that what the Lady Mayoress thought Romans would have done?
I think so. Well, you have to kind of create traditions, don't you?
So basically inventing a Roman...
You have to invent traditions.
Russell Crowe came and scattered some soil
and the wonderful thing is that so ever since the mid-19th century, there's been a ban on burying people within the limits of the city. But they put in a special provision that... in 2007 that you could bury people here, you could reuse burial plots if the previous occupant on the site had been there for more than 75 years.
And
so obviously with her you could, because she'd been here for kind of 1600 years. So that kind of intersection of developers and archaeology, of material finds and fantasy.
It's the story of this episode, isn't it?
It's the story of this episode.
It's a nicely kind of melancholy, haunting note on which to end.
Yes, and it reminds us that essentially Roman London fades away and ebbs away, and we don't really know what happens.
Well, we will be taking up the story of London in future podcasts, won't we?
I'm
sure by the time we're finished, we'll have been through every period of the capital's history. But I think for now, we would say, what do we say, Valet?
Ave atque vale.
There you
Hail
go.
and farewell.
You heard it from the horse's mouth. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to The Rest is History. For bonus episodes, early access, ad-free listening, and access to our chat community, please sign up at restishistorypod.com. That's restishistorypod.com.